Hey, can
Hey,
you hear us now? Hey,
hey.
Lee. Awesome.
Wow, what an amazing difference using Chrome makes when you're using Google-based collaboration tools.
Of course.
uh, Very good. Oh, there's Santosh. There he is. Oh, there's Pratik.
Haley.
Hey,
Hey,
Sako. There's Sako.
hey guys. Hey, Pratik, Pawan, Krish.
Hey, Sako, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Hey, Sago. I did not see your message till now. I was actually on a different Slack channel and I missed your messages. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. We can sync.
Guys, if you don't mind, jump into the meeting minutes while Santosh joins. We'll get him introduced here. I just put in a link to the minutes. Maybe pre-fill in your areas. And Girish, and Pratik, well, and Pavan, I guess. You guys can tell me, am I slaughtering Santosh? Or is it Santosh?
Hey, Santosh.
Hey, I mean, can you send the link to my Gmail if you guys don't mind? Like, I'm using my mobile.
Oh, sure. Yeah, hey, yeah. So, Santosh, it's Santu1 Santosh
Yes.
at Gmail. Okay, very good. We can maybe even do one better than that and like actually send you a calendar invite. That might even.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. Okay, that's headed your way.
Yeah. I'll drop this and then join this.
Okay. All right, guys. Good. You guys have another community contributor to meet here in a minute, but um, well, we were going to get started, but then he's going to join, and then it's going to interrupt, and so
Yeah.
maybe we should get started anyway. So, Pratik, you might be the man of the hour. So.
Yeah, I have a few performance results to share with you guys. I haven't figured out every caveat of the meshes yet, but there are some interesting things that I have noticed. Let me share my screen. Can everyone view my screen?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So this is a test of what are the overheads that service meshes like Linkerd and everything have on top of Kubernetes when there is a load test running, when there are no load tests running, and things of those order. So let me come and explain these graphs first, and then I'll go to the upper charts. So this is idle CPU utilization, what is the utilization of CPUs. Ignore the percentage numbers. These are actually fractions from 0 to 1 and not actually 0 to 100. So everything needs to be multiplied by 100 if I want the percentage sign. That is something that I noticed today morning. I haven't just updated the graphs yet. So the blue ones is the plain Kubernetes utilization of the of the cluster, and the red ones are the overheads that Istio or Linkerd has. As we can see, I tried out with various configurations of Istio. So this is the demo with TLS on. I've just tested with TLS because Linkerd has TLS on. And regardless of removing telemetry or tracing, the CPU overhead is significant. Same is with memory. And these are the first two graphs. These two graphs are the control plane overheads. These are the graphs where the blue one, the red one is basically the HTTP bin application CPU utilization, and those numbers are actually the same regardless of which, if it is in a meshed setting or not, in a no mesh setting. All the HTTP bin applications utilization of memory and CPU remain the same. But what differs is the proxy injectors overhead when a particular mesh is up. And those here also we see that Istio has quite significant overhead. Interesting thing is when we have a particular load, I think this graph is wrong. So when we have a particular load, if you see, if you go and come and notice these graphs, this is the CPU utilization of the HTTP bin versus the Istio proxy, and HTTP bin versus the Linkerd proxy. HTTP bin goes to about 0.005, and same with when I deploy HTTP bin with Linkerd. But in case of Istio, the Istio proxy overhead first is quite high, then after a couple of minutes it settles down, but still it is significantly more than what unloaded HTTP bin application CPU utilization looks like. Whereas in Linkerd's case, the Linkerd proxy is a very thin layer. It is hardly any overhead on top of HTTP bin. And this is when a load test is not running. The interesting case is when I do run a load test. This is the case when I actually do run a load test. The HTTP bin application is in both the cases shoot up. So does the Linkerd and Istio proxy, but the overall utilization is about 0.12 for Istio, whereas for Linkerd, the overall, including both the proxy and the HTTP bin, it goes to approximately 0.18 to sometimes 0.2. So that is interesting that the Linkerd's overhead during a load is higher than Istio's, whereas under no loaded backed on resource utilization. So that is a really interesting thing that I noticed. I still have to dig deep into what exactly are the architectures of architecture and service, how they develop, like what happens in each of these cases. I have not done that, but that is one of my to-do items. Another interesting thing is both Istio and Linkerd. These are the cluster memory utilization graphs. These are the times when I have deployed both of these applications. It takes some time to come up, settle down, and Linkerd's settles down pretty soon. It takes some time. There is a increase in Istio's memory after a couple of minutes, but then even though I do the cluster, it just is there. The memory utilization keeps increasing over time. So this is over 2.5 hours to 3 hours of duration of a cluster which is not being fiddled with. And the memory utilization keeps increasing. And same is seen with Linkerd as well. I do notice that there is a spike jump here. That jump goes back after a couple of hours again. I am not sure, but regardless of that jump, the increasing trend of memory utilization is same for both Linkerd and Istio. We do notice that Istio's memory overhead is close to 800 to 1 gigs, whereas for Linkerd it's about 160 to 200 megabytes only. So that is true. Like Linkerd overall, in any experiment that I've run, I've seen that Linkerd has very low overheads. At least in unloaded environment. In loaded environment, sometimes the performance is comparable, sometimes Istio is better. This is one other graph of Istio control plane memory utilization. As we can see, as in this graph, the idle memory utilization is tending towards 1 gigs, and these are the three peaks that we see here are when I was running loads. I was running tests on Istio, and obviously, like the memory utilization shot up, the resident memory set shot up, but it did not come back down till 1 gigs again. It just shot up, came down a bit, and then it remained constant at a higher memory utilization. Those numbers are also shown here in under a load testing setup. These are the memory and CPU utilization of the control of the application, and they should have been memory and CPU. I think I screwed up something, and I have memory and memory like the same graph twice. I have the data. I'll just update it quickly so that we can.
Well, so a few things, both to make sure that I'm oriented in the right way and the rest of the community. Here in just a few minutes, we're going to do a little bit of a community introduction to some folks that are here for the first time. But as a reminder, this particular environment that these tests are being run in, Pratik, is this still a single node Ubuntu-based Kubernetes cluster?
Yes, the environment is as I have in the sheet over here. Sorry, not this. Yeah, this is my environment that I'm running. We are in the process of acquiring some servers. I am not sure when we will, but it should be sometime over the summers. And when I get those, it is at least like a couple of servers. So I will be testing similar things on those. But as of now, it's on my local machine, which is this configuration.
Yeah. In many respects, it's kind of nice that it is just a single node environment, so that we can potentially tease out the most interesting tests, such that as we get to a scaled out environment, we'll be able to run some of those same types of tests, but run them at scale. I suspect there's going to be a few things that are going to that we might be surprised at when we do get to scale. One of those was that what you were noting in a not underutilized environment, where you've essentially got nil traffic, the memory, the sort of slow memory creep, at least for Envoy, at least for Istio. And just even when you just consider the order of magnitude difference of the low amount of memory footprint that Linkerd's Rust implementation has versus, and for the most part, it's really just versus Envoy. There's maybe a little more that happens. And so here's the other.
I agree. Like that's what that peak is. So I have actually cloned the source code for both Envoy and Linkerd proxy, and I am in works of understanding how the mesh is exactly set up.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I think is deceiving, even about what I just said, I'm making the assumption that that truly the same functionality is enabled, because So by the way, what version of Istio are you running? If you recall.
I'm running the YAML. I'm not sure exactly.
The latest one is 1.
I think it's 1.14, or I don't think I've installed the latest one, so I think it's 1.4.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I think in 1.14 and maybe just prior, by default, so one of the performance issues that Istio had been experiencing is kind of Well, an over presumptuous default configuration. The default configuration was continually sending out telemetry reports or doing. No, I'm sorry. Let me back that up and say it was continually performing checks, checks to see authorization checks or quota limit checks each time that a request was received, and if that request wasn't cached, it would be performing those checks even if you didn't have policy configured. And so there was just
okay.
And so anyway, the reason I mentioned this nuance is because even when I was speaking just then, saying, "Wow, look at that significant order of magnitude difference," in fact, we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples. But that can be okay because that's just one of those things that we show. Hey, here's a big difference, and by the way, here's the logical reasons as to why that's different. They have a different design. This design includes, sort of always includes the overhead for authorization checks, whereas this one maybe doesn't. And so,
yeah, I agree. Yeah. Those are some of the details which I'm not exactly sure. So, like, if any of you guys have any ideas about why these differences could be, then I'm happy to hear and investigate further in those lines. Like, if you, I think these charts are available to everyone.
yeah.
Everyone feel free to have a look at the charts, and if some numbers do not make sense or you might have an explanation for those numbers, I'm happy to hear them and dig deep and confirm if that is true.
Yep. So that's an excellent reminder that this spreadsheet, guys, is in the community shared folder. So you're more than welcome to go in and look at these in detail. For certain, the thing that I just mentioned about checks was a point of unnecessary overhead when you don't even have it. That had been addressed in later releases where that those checks were disabled by default if you weren't using the. Also, I think in the configurations that Istio has, they've updated it to be from 100% sampling by default to like 1% sampling by default, and so that's really changed the profile or the default profile.
Okay. Do you have any idea what version would that be? Because I am pretty sure I am after 1.14. I'm not sure if I am on the latest. But
I think the version which Pratik is using does have like the tracing actually limited to 1%. I'm not sure about the telemetry though. Yes.
Not sure about telemetry. Tracing is definitely limited to 1%, and the check authorization, I'm not exactly sure if that is.
With respect to the authorization, that's a good point. Pratik, so if you actually are using the tweaked version, wherein we created using Helm templates. I think by default there, the proxy check, the mixer policy verifications are probably turned off. I think that's
turned on.
Turned off, I think.
Turned off. Okay.
So so by default, I think it is turned off, because I think after one, I don't know the precise version, where by default they've turned off, so you have to actually turn it on. I don't know about the default demo version. I can check, but in the version which you said where you have the tracing turned off, that was generated out of Helm template, in the sense it was created by using a Helm template, a command run. So I did not. I do not remember specifying that the proxy checks have to be enabled. So by default, I think they are turned off. So, but the telemetry is still on, which means whatever the default telemetry limits are or the level is, I think that's still there. We have not tuned that down. But the tracing is actually, again, by default, it's 1%. So I think the comparison you have here, are precisely that configuration.
Yeah. I mean, I did not see a significant drop, even the telemetry turned off as well. I did not see a very significant difference. Like, there was a memory consumption difference, which I have made a note over here. I have not made a graph out of it. Like the with TLS and without TLS, the memory utilization was similar. Without telemetry, though, we did see a small change in memory. But the CPU utilization in all the cases were similar. So I think the base reason why we have this overhead might be something in the implementation, which I'm planning to figure out.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was on the verge of putting in the request to leverage the CNCF's cluster or to get some time there for about a week to 2 weeks. Some of the tests I think will be illuminating at scale. I think for those that are running, I mean, this is kind of a point of frustration. I think Chaim is familiar with this, at least from the panel that he was on at DockerCon, that um, many will be interested in tail latencies. Many will be interested in performance characteristics of large-scale environments, those with X number of like a decently high number of services,
Yeah.
And which is somewhat natural in that that's where you get the most benefit from a service mesh. That's also where you can have to pay the most overhead. That's also where you've got engineers that are more dedicated to this type of a focus. They have more time to focus. This is also where if they pay attention to it and tweak it and performance tune it, they're going to get the greatest benefit. So that's all fantastic. I think it's slightly a shame that, but it's natural that those that have smaller environments with fewer services and fewer nodes, there won't be as big of a performance difference happening, probably. B, they're not going to get as much return on investment for the time that they spend tweaking, because they're only going to save, times 10 versus times 1,000.
Yeah. You're right. Like I'm sure that when we deploy it, say on AWS with a lot of nodes and things like that, I am sure that some of these graphs, if not all, some of these graphs trends might change, and that will be interesting to see as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that, given that it's a single node, very small application deployment environment, I'm surprised that there's that much overhead in the Istio proxy. Now, Pratik, just maybe final thing on this. You'd said that it wasn't just the Istio proxy that seemed to be having a bit of overhead, but it was the init container. The one that sort of lives and dies very briefly.
No, I mean, I do see that the proxy, this is the chart that I have on the screen is for about like 20-25 minutes of after the container is up, the pod is up. And this is exactly the Istio proxy container, not the init container.
Okay. Anyway, at scale, those end up having a bit of an issue because of the way in which Istio is trying to push basically a full network topology down to each envoy, and it wasn't partitioning those configurations. It wasn't being realistic about only giving one proxy a partial view. It was trying to give every proxy a full view of the mesh, and that became too much.
Yeah, that might be the reason why we are seeing this overhead. And maybe Linkerd does the same in a multi-node environment. And in a multi-node environment, maybe Linkerd would also be somewhat similar to what we are seeing for Istio in a single-node environment. Yeah, but that is left, like that is something that I haven't tested because I don't have the environment right now. So
I'm gonna okay. I am gonna go if I am gonna go put in that request then, because I think we are to a point by which we've gained some proficiency as some fairly in-depth understanding and are ready to see some of this at scale. So
Yeah, like me and Mohit, we are in discussion of getting a few servers, but I don't know if you will be able to get a huge cluster, a huge, yeah.
yeah, I think so. Probably I don't know. Maybe 100 nodes, quite a bit.
Okay, okay, that's encouraging.
Yeah, yeah. No. It'll be a meaningful thing, and it'll be required that the results are published. I mean, it's a yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, with that, very good. Well, it's nice to see a bunch of friendly faces, and also a new one or one that I haven't gotten to spend much time with. So Santosh, good to see you. Thanks for joining all the way. Yeah, all the way from the halls of IBM, I think.
After a long time, but now I got a chance.
Yeah, yeah. Your name looked very familiar.
Yeah, like it's been. I mean, I was on and off. Like it's been like 8 months since they're going on. So finally, I moved to Austin.
Oh, I see.
And, I met with Yogi. So after we met, the discussion got serious, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm keeping." He said he was busy with some his, and then after he's like, "Okay, now I have to do that," and then he introduced.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, do you want to just give a brief introduction about yourself to the crew here, and they'll do the same.
Sure. I've been a full stack developer like for the past like 6 years, and potentially I've built applications which are written in core Python, and then I built some web applications using Python where I've used Flask in the backend and then built the enterprise level application. And one of the applications was analytics tool, like WinForm analytics tool. We built it from scratch, where it would get the data from different WinForms and then it would present on the UI. So I'm comfortable with AngularJS in the front end. Like we built the application where we used AngularJS in the front end, and in the back end we have used Python, Flask, and then Django. Coming to the database, we have used MySQL and Mongo, like a combination of both. And in my current project, I'm totally a full stack developer. So every sprint I work on different technologies. One sprint I work on AngularJS. One sprint I work on Flask. One sprint I work on database. One sprint I work on Docker and Kubernetes. We use Kubernetes. Everything is containerized here. So recently I've automated I've automated some manual things. For example, I built a tool which could analyze the performance of the web application. I was asked to present the um, results of the queries which are running slow. So as the application is enterprise level, there are many queries that are being many API endpoints that the application hits, and that corresponding API would hit multiple databases, and then some queries perform better and some queries doesn't. As there are many API endpoints, I've automated that, and then I wrote a script which would accept har file as an input and then automatically grab the APIs in the har file and then hit the database and then get the queries and then it will populate those results into Excel spreadsheet in which um, we can analyze which queries are running faster and slower. So that's what is my daily routine here.
Yeah.
And then yeah, that's about what I've been doing so far.
No, that's nice. Yeah, there's some relevant areas of focus within there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, say it again, Sako.
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Like back and front and everywhere. QA. Nice.
Yeah, like we have to uh, yeah, like we have to like we have to in this, like I have lots of scope to
Yeah.
learn, because like all the companies that I worked with are of small team and it's kind of a startup, so I had to involve in everything. So that's how I got to know all this.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Very good. Very good. Well, Santosh, we're going to come back to you in just a few minutes, but um, let's jump into the meeting minutes if we can. I'm going to go ahead and share them here. There's another fresh contributor that has just started this week. Her name's Harshini. Her last name I won't slaughter. She's coming from not just Lumina Networks, but the Network Service Mesh project. And so she's submitted a couple of very small PRs today just to get it the ball rolling. She's going to focus on the NSM adapter. So that's great. Her Prem, her director, has been very kind towards the project. And so we'll certainly make mention of them at the. Well, there's about 5 Meshery talks at KubeCon and around KubeCon this next week. So we're going to get some mileage out of the efforts that you guys have given. So it's good. There's also sort of the surprise announcement around Service Mesh interface and that specification. And last week, Garish demoed Meshery's initial compatibility with that new spec. So shortly, those private repos will probably be opened, and we can talk about some of that more in depth and what that means to Meshery. So with that, those are the general updates. So Pratik, I think you went through many of your some of your findings. I guess maybe last question there is, as we look toward Wednesday, as kind of the big presentation day, what further remains? Do you think it's trying to root cause?
I think we had a list of the potential tests. I covered, I think, a couple of them from them. And basically, like, we can go through the graphs that I have and make sense if we want to present them and how do we want to present them. But I am not sure I have time to dig deep into it till like Tuesday, Wednesday, because I'm gonna be moving, like packing and moving from my current apartment to a different apartment over the weekend, and Monday I'm starting my internship. So I'm not sure. I think I need some time for the packing and stuff.
Understood. No doubt you'll break at least 2 things in the move. Yeah, fair enough. There's a number, well, at least for trying to root cause a few of the reasons why we're seeing the differences. I'll be able to help there for sure.
Okay, yeah. We can discuss about those, and if some of them are quick runs, then I can dig into them.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, congratulations on the Qualsys. It's Qualsys, right? The internship.
Yeah, Qualcomm. Yeah,
Oh, Qualcomm. Yeah, very good. Very good.
Congratulations, Patrick.
yeah. Thanks.
All right, fair enough. Let's jump into the others. So, Sako, I know it was kind of GKE and EKS.
So yeah, that's I had a bit issue because I changed my laptop. I had an issue, so a bit slowed down. But meanwhile, I brought up again the GK cluster back and was looking with Fortio for the testing for this. We had a meeting migration project that I supposed to look for TCP and gRPC testing. So that's a thing, I guess, for the component. That's a for myself that I will look at today and tomorrow, and we'll sync up for the. I have some questions.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: on the TCP testing, do you have an application that you're considering to use, or is that just um, you know the sample apps that are there, considering that they use HTTP, TCP?
So basically, for the TCP, that's I don't have the mind in the application, but was thinking to use I performance tool
Yeah.
TCP connection. So, but because for the application, I saw that Google has some polyglot demo like molecular service. I'm thinking that that's as a one option, and other maybe some simple app that will check one for TCP, one for gRPC.
Okay.
But I haven't decided because in sample application, in Bookinfo has MySQL one with TCP. That's when you deploy the Bookinfo, it has inside. We'll see if I can do a test against this one. But gRPC, I'm not sure for the sample app. I will need to see if there is already in sample. Otherwise, look for other outside.
Okay. Very good. So and then just going back to last week, I think last week you had verified GKE compatibility. That was great, but it also included, I think you were looking at a small bash script.
Yeah, that's that's the one I had looked, but I haven't bring the EKS cluster, so I will use one of the we have in integration that deployment test visit. That's because of the laptop changes I had a bit.
Oh yeah, got it. Is that, do you think that PR, that shell script is something good
migrating?
Is that shell script something good to PR?
Is it shell script? Yes, I can. I will pair up with Grish, and we can do it, and I can just run it, and we can share screen. Okay. And if any no other comments, I can PR it.
Okay. What about like the script that you have to flatten out the
Minikube?
Yeah, the cube config for Minikube. Is that something we just need to include in the docs?
Yeah, that's only the docs should be good enough for it because it's just one line command. Okay. It's not have any external dependency.
All right. Very good. So, and then I missed what you just said, but it sounded like you were going to PR that today. Okay, that's wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Cool. Very good. Chaim, over to you. And Chaim probably had to step away for the moment, or he has his mute button on. But if I say Chaim a few more times, he might. Oh wait, no, he's sent a message. Oh, he had to drop off. So he did. So he did deliver on his promise, which was he completed coding of the Octarine adapter, including setting up the resources on the control plane. And remember, guys, this Octarine adapter, it's going to work with a managed control plane, one that Octarine, the company, hosts. Okay, and then he also completed the coding of deploying the data plane and then deploying Bookinfo. Great. He still needs to set up the Docker file and a lot of testing, but I don't think he merged this though. So I don't know that anyone in the community can necessarily test this. I think the other open question here is what like sample account, since it's a managed control plane, there needs to be some demo account credentials that the public can use. Sample accounts. Okay. And then Santosh, we're going to circle back to you just at the end here, just to make sure that you get engaged in the right way. But, Garish, you're up.
All right. Cool, guys. So I have, I tried to make a note of some of the work that I've been doing. So, but the initial major thing is actually that I've been working with Pratik and Sako to come up with the next set of metrics that will be interesting for comparison, and that's one of the great things which Pratik actually presented. Hopefully, Sako will have some similar things to share probably next week, on gRPC and maybe on GCP. Sorry, on TCP. Sorry. With respect to Meshery itself, I'm going to try to share the screen. Let me start with that. There are some really minor changes, nothing major, but the major one is, just give me 1 second. So the major one is the adapter for Consul. We thought it'll be nice to actually have it for next week. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. I think you are.
Yep.
Voila. Okay, cool. I hope you guys are seeing my screen. So
Yep.
some of the things, like I mentioned, so are mostly UI changes. Like for example, the header is now slightly taller. The title of the page is actually the center. Nothing specifically has changed on the performance page. Now, the other major change is actually the console adapter. So I have the console adapter configured here. So you can now see the three different types of adapters, Linkerd, Istio, and Consul. Of course, the logo has not been updated because the console adapter, I just brought it to a functional state late yesterday. So, but these are the very basic functionality. I thought would be good to start with. First one is installing Consul on Kubernetes with the sidecar injector. Unfortunately, Consul does not work at the namespace level, so it has to. So every service has to be annotated the right way, and if services have upstream services, then the main service will also need to have those annotations in place. So the Bookinfo app and the HTTP bin app, these are Istio's applications. So what I've done is I've tried to bring in the same set of applications into Consul, so that when people are running some tests, and they want to compare apples to apples, I think the same applications will actually help. So the Bookinfo app and the HTTP bin app are, as part of this adapter, are annotated the right way, so that they will have the sidecar proxy injected, and that also have the upstream services included as part of the annotation. So that's the Consul adapter. Now, the other thing I've done is that, as part of Linkerd as well, I'm now providing deployment of the same Bookinfo app and the HTTP bin app, because, like I said, for apples to apples comparison, we wanted it across the board. Sorry, that's for Istio, and the same thing for Linkerd and Istio's canonical Bookinfo app are now available across the board. So, if people want to compare, it'll be a lot easier for them. Pratik and Sako, who have been testing or conducting a lot of tests, have had to do things manually. So now this will actually help them big time without having to deal with it. Now, the other thing, if you guys have seen, is the interaction on this page. Earlier, it used to be a radio button, with some, submit and revert options. But this time, I'm giving this option where individually, they'll have buttons. Of course, I'm still working on some color schemes, but those are some tiny ones. And the custom YAML option comes in a modal centered, so that people can still work on their YAML. So there is no difference there. Pretty much that's exactly the same behavior across the board, again, facilitated using React Components. So this is one of the major changes that was actually done. The other one is if people have really paid some attention to the snack bar behavior. I mean, earlier it used to be that the snack bar will actually come once, and other consecutive snack bars will usually not show up unless the first one goes away. So that was actually not the best behavior. So I tried to bring in the stacking behavior where, when there are more, they'll keep stacking one over the other, like on the right top of the screen. I'm trying to showcase that, but for that, I need to have a simple test container running. So I'm just going to check if I can actually bring one up very quickly. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to actually show this. All right. Okay, so I have a Ford IO server that's running locally. 1980. All right. So this is a good URL to use. Of course, that's not going to work because I've exposed it on port 9080. So I'm just going to give that a try. So test it for 1 second. It should technically fail. You can see that it actually failed. So if I keep hitting it multiple times, you will see. So this is kind of just trying to showcase the behavior how the snack bars will actually stack up. The same way you can they stand there for some time but you can also close them. Now on the other side a valid one like this, I'm just going to run that for 1 second, and you can see the green one just appeared. Now if I do it again, you'll see another one. So the same stacking behavior appears for both, which is kind of a decent thing. Earlier this wasn't the case. So this is now kind of a common framework across all the pages. So the behavior will be uniform across the pages. And with the playground again, in these cases with Consul and Linkerd, when they do not have an ingress gateway, they will actually be able to see the port on which the application is exposed in the notifications that come up asynchronously under the section. So these are some of the changes that I've been working on for Meshery. There are some other ones which are probably not visually seen much. For example, in the case with SMI, SMI changes are coming at a rapid pace. So anytime I see some major changes, I try to kind of update our YAMLs with the new images, because again they do not have images at this point in time. So I have to create an image, push to Docker Hub, and I'm using that as part of our Istio adapter. So I have to kind of keep that up to date. Now, while I was working on multiple adapters, I see quite a lot of functionality that I could actually move into a separate library. So I'm going to be creating an issue to kind of keep track of that, and I'll be getting to that probably after KubeCon. Other than that,
a question on that is that okay, so that's one more moving piece. It's like a centralized adapter component.
Right.
Is that
exactly? Yeah.
Does that library make sense to just have in Meshery itself?
No, I think a new repo should actually be easier to work with.
Okay, because Meshery can be deployed physically remote from the adapters.
Right. We could have it in a separate folder in Meshery, but then I think having it in a separate repo would actually make much more sense, which is the reason why I thought it would be better to move.
Oh, I see. And then, but the deployment of it, would that be in a separate container as well?
No, it will not. No. So the way it'll be is that all the common pieces will be in a separate repo. That's essentially, think of it like a library code.
Okay. So
all the adapters will just be importing them as a library.
Okay.
Have references to it. Yeah. So that's pretty much most of the things I'm working on. So me and Lee will be at DockerCon. I'm starting my journey tomorrow. That's pretty much it. We are presenting Meshery at several places. So hopefully, we'll get more attention to the Meshery project. That's pretty much my updates.
Yeah. So speaking of, there's a network engineer who started to take a look at Meshery today. He lives in Austin, actually. And then, actually, speaking of, there's a Google Cloud Solutions Architect who's giving a couple of talks on Istio. And I think he's just become aware of the project. So Sandeep Parikh, that's his name, and then the other guy, the network engineer in Austin, Tristan Mendoza. And so it's good, just a small uptick of folks.
Maybe we should have a meetup in Austin.
Yeah, in a very serious way. Yes, I organized 2 meetups in Austin. And it's been quite some time since I've held one of them, and it's very much so my intention as soon as one gets the very next
It
one
is
that
more
gets scheduled.
productive. It is more productive if we have in person, like at least like 1 hour every week or so.
Yeah, yeah. You mean for the well, yeah. I think for the meetup for sure to be
Yeah.
able to demo Meshery so that people can see it and understand it, use it
Mhm.
and contribute. And then for the community meeting, there's a number of folks in Austin. Um, I don't know if there's I am near guaranteed that if I were to try to get one in person, I would probably fail the community every time by not being there. So, but yeah, Santosh, there's a couple of other friends of Yogi's, Sunil and Ravi, or Ravi. I haven't met him, so I'm not sure which way he enunciates it yet. But um, they may come contribute as well, and they're in Austin, so um, we'll see. So fair enough. So Pratik, and then Pavan, you've been sitting in front of us this whole time, and I forgot that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, like compared to the last week, I tried with Vagrant, like installation of Meshery in Vagrant, but like I didn't succeed in that. So I take a different way. Just install the Ubuntu machine in VirtualBox, and then install the Meshery, and like it's like I can able to connect the Kubernetes cluster from the Ubuntu machine.
Nice.
Like
Okay.
so, all the. Let me share my screen. Like, just give me a second. So we have a 3 nodes cluster. One is master and 2 nodes, and I have a test node. Where in the test node I install the Meshery, and after installing the Meshery, I can able to log into this machine and I can connect to the Kubernetes cluster. This is the basic part I did like last week, and I'm running on Windows 7. So instead of running Meshery in Ubuntu machine, I try to install in my laptop Windows 7. But like the Docker container, when I start installing the Docker in my machine, like it didn't work as expected. Even Nginx basic apps are not running fine. So I didn't dare to install Mesh over there. So Windows, like if I have Windows 10 machines, like the Docker would run much better. But like unfortunately, I don't have the Windows 10 as of now. That's the update from my end. Like I will start testing by this week. That's the only update from my end.
Yeah, of the VirtualBox compatibility, was there any additional steps that you had to take outside of what's described in the Meshery docs currently?
No, like well, I would say it's like only the YAML file. I changed the version from 3 to 2. That's it. Apart of that, I didn't do any changes.
Oh, okay.
Like when I run the Meshery start, it gave me some error message where like it says that like it won't run on an issue with the YAML which is in the root directory. Like so, I just changed the version 3 to 2.
Nice. You know what? Yeah, so that was probably I'm assuming based on the Ubuntu system that you had, just having an older install of Docker and not necessarily a newer Docker Compose, probably. Others might run into that issue. That would be a great one for us to document in the install section of Meshery docs.
Okay.
I'll get you. I actually in the Meshery repo, there's a docs folder. I'll point it out to you where we can update, either have a troubleshooting section for folks. We also, and this goes for Sako and you, Pavan, we need a compatibility matrix inside the Meshery docs. and that matrix needs to include GKE, EKS, VirtualBox, Minikube, etc., and any caveats that are there with them.
Yeah, maybe I'll work with Sako and Pratik for testing for this week. Maybe I'll contact them and try to test in VirtualBox by this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, problem. Let's do it.
Yep, definitely.
Thank you, guys.
Nice, very good. Okay. Well, fair enough. Well, with that, so Pratik, best of luck on the move. Thanks for the results. I'm going to go through them myself, try to ascertain why we're seeing the deltas outside of just what could be the straight up fact that these are two totally different code bases and they perform totally differently. Just in case there's some environmental config of the test that you ran. Quick confirmation. So I get the environment that you ran them in. And then I know last time we spoke and we were presenting results, it was, I think we had a multi-column thing where this was the default profile. This was
Correct. Yeah, I do have like the charts that I have, like at least the bar graphs that I have. All of those numbers are in that format, just above the graphs in the same sheet.
Okay.
But the the Grafana screenshots that I have, those are basically picked up from Grafana. I like those were a lot of data points to just put on sheets, so I just screenshotted interesting points from Grafana and put it there. We can have a discussion. We can go just you, me, Girish, Sako, maybe. Like I can share my screen and the Grafana charts, and then we can go over them individually as well.
Okay.
Sure. So when you're presenting in KubeConf, is it on Wednesday?
Yeah, there's a couple of smaller ones. There's one on Sunday, one on Monday night, another one on Tuesday night. I'll be talking about it on a panel on Wednesday morning, but then the main presentation is on Wednesday, the 22nd at noon Central Eastern Europe time, which is like basically end of day Tuesday, I think, for you guys.
Yep.
We will also be listed during a keynote. Microsoft will be giving a keynote, and they're going to have Meshery. They're not going to do a demo, but they're going to have it up on a slide to let people know about the compatibility with SMI. So.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
So do we need also to check Azure by that time? You think that?
Yeah. That might not. I think if we can get there, beautiful. It's probably honestly, it's probably more important, or we're gonna have more success, and you're more familiar with EKS, for you to maybe just stick with that one. And
sure,
if you get that one done, great, go to Azure.
But I don't know if they have some free credits or something. That I never, to be honest, used Azure, but
so we can. I'll take a note. I'll ask about that because that. Okay, with that, fair enough. I'll maybe we'll wrap up the community call and just chat with Santosh if he has a moment.
Yeah, sure.
Get you pointed in the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Pratik. Thanks, Pavan.
Yeah. Just.